Matt Damon has spent almost 30 years being the most normal-looking, abnormal success story in Hollywood. He's won an Oscar before he could legally rent a car in some states. He's been a spy, a soldier, a con man, a slave-owning nobleman, a shipwrecked astronaut, and somehow still comes across like the guy who'd help you jumpstart your car in a parking lot. So today, I want to dive into the career of Matt Damon to figure out how a kid from Cambridge became the actor an entire country decided it could trust. But who is Matt Damon exactly? Matthew Page Damon was born on October 8, 1970 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. His mother was a professor of early childhood education. His father was a real estate agent and tax preparer. So no showbiz gene here, no theater kid parents pushing him on stage since birth, just a normal academic household in a college town. Except for one detail. 2 doors down the street lived a kid named Ben Affleck. These two didn't meet on a movie set or an audition line. They met as literal children, riding bikes around the same neighborhood, doing school plays together before either of them had any idea what a career even was. And if you want to understand basically everything that happens to Matt Damon for the next 3 decades, you kind of just need to remember that fact. Because this friendship is the engine underneath almost his entire career. Now, some fun facts before we get into it. Matt Damon actually attended Harvard for a few years, but dropped out before finishing his degree to chase acting full-time, which is the kind of decision that either ends in you being broke forever or an Academy Award winner. He went back decades later in his 40s and actually finished the degree, because apparently even movie stardom doesn't cure your mother, the professor, from wanting you to graduate. James Cameron reportedly wanted him for the lead role in Avatar, a franchise that has made billions of dollars, and Damon passed on it because of scheduling conflicts with another franchise we'll get to shortly. And in multiple surveys over the years, Damon has literally been ranked as one of the most trustworthy celebrities in America, which is a strange thing to measure, but hey, I don't make the rules. Before any of the trust, before any of the movie star stuff, Matt Damon was just another young actor bouncing around small roles that nobody remembers. A blink of a scene in Mystic Pizza, a minor part in Field of Dreams, small, forgettable stuff. The kind of roles where you're technically in the credits, but nobody's rewinding to find you. So Matt Damon and Ben Affleck did something most struggling actors never think to do. Instead of waiting around for someone to write them a great part, they just wrote one themselves. They started working on a script about a janitor at MIT who happens to secretly be a mathematical genius, wrestling with trauma, self-sabotage, and whether he's allowed to actually be great at something. They wrote it, rewrote it, and eventually sold it. And in 1997, that script became Good Will Hunting. Damon didn't just star in it, he co-wrote it. And at 27 years old, he and Affleck won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, standing on that stage together like a couple of guys who genuinely could not believe this was real life. This is the moment that changes everything, because it tells you something important about how Damon thinks. He didn't wait to be chosen, he built the door himself and then walked through it. 1 year later, in 1998, Damon landed in the middle of one of the most brutal war films ever made. Saving Private Ryan put him in the center of a story about a group of soldiers risking their lives just to bring one guy home. Damon wasn't the flashiest performer in that movie. He didn't need to be. His entire job was to be the reason the whole mission made sense, the guy worth all that sacrifice. And Spielberg trusted him to carry that weight. This is where Hollywood quietly filed Matt Damon under a very specific category. Not just talented, trustworthy with an audience's emotional investment. Give him the weight of the story, and he won't drop it. A year after that, Damon did something that should have broken the mold people were building around him. In The Talented Mr. Ripley, he played a con man who murders his way into someone else's identity, smiling the entire time. It's an unsettling performance, specifically because Damon's face doesn't naturally read as dangerous. He looks like the guy you'd trust with your car keys, and that's exactly why it works. Ripley isn't scary because he seems evil, he's scary because he seems so normal. This is honestly the first hint of a theme that will follow Damon his entire career. Audiences trust his face implicitly, and every so often he uses that trust against them on purpose. By 2001, Damon slid into Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 as Linus Caldwell, the rookie pickpocket trying to prove himself among a room full of legends. And here's the thing about that role. Damon isn't playing the coolest guy in the room, he's playing the guy still trying to earn his seat at the table. which honestly is a pretty accurate metaphor for where Damon was in his actual career. Surrounded by giants, still hungry, still proving something. The difference is, it wouldn't take long before he stopped being the guy proving himself and became one of the giants. In 2002, Matt Damon became an action star almost by accident. The Bourne identity introduced Jason Bourne, an amnesiac ex-assassin trying to figure out who he used to be while an entire intelligence agency tries to kill him. Damon bulked up, trained in Krav Maga, and did an enormous amount of his own physical work, all while playing a character defined by silence and control, rather than one-liners and explosions. This is important because it's the opposite of the usual action hero formula. Bourne barely talks. He doesn't brag, he just methodically solves problems and takes hits without flinching, and audiences loved it because it fit exactly what they already believed about Matt Damon. Quietly capable, doesn't need to show off, just gets it done. The franchise made hundreds of millions of dollars, and Damon became one of the few actors who could headline a spy franchise without ever raising his voice. By 2006, Damon teamed up with Martin Scorsese for The Departed, playing a corrupt cop working undercover for the mob, embedded so deep inside the police department that even he starts losing track of which side he's actually on. Once again, that trustworthy face becomes the whole engine of the tension. Everyone in that police station believes this guy. That's the entire point, because if audiences didn't instinctively trust Matt Damon, the movie wouldn't work at all. It's wild when you actually stop and count how many times Damon's career quietly circles back to this same idea. Give the most trustworthy face in Hollywood something to lie about and watch how uncomfortable that makes people. Then in 2015, Ridley Scott put Damon on Mars and left him there. The Martian is essentially a one-man survival story, and it could have easily been bleak and joyless. Instead, Damon plays an astronaut who responds to almost certain death with sarcasm, science, and a genuinely funny sense of humor about his own impossible situation. This role earned Damon an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, and it might be the most purely likable performance of his entire career. Because even trapped alone on a hostile planet, the guy still feels like company you'd want to keep. In 2019, Damon starred in Ford vs. Ferrari alongside Christian Bale, playing real-life car designer Carroll Shelby. This movie isn't really about cars, even though it looks like it is. It's about two stubborn men trying to build something great inside a corporate system that keeps getting in their way. And once again, Damon plays the guy holding the whole operation together, while somebody louder and more volatile gets most of the attention. It's a role that fits him like a glove at this point in his career. Not the flashiest guy in the scene, just the reason the scene works. In 2021, Damon reunited with Ben Affleck as co-writers for The Last Duel, a brutal medieval drama they hadn't done together since Good Will Hunting decades earlier. And then in 2023, Affleck stepped behind the camera to direct Damon in Air, a movie about the unlikely birth of the Air Jordan sneaker deal. Damon plays Sonny Vaccaro, a scout who bets his entire career on believing in one rookie nobody else wanted to gamble on. It's honestly kind of beautiful if you think about it. Two kids from the same street in Cambridge, decades later, still building things together, just now with Oscars and franchises attached to their names instead of a spec script and a dream. And in 2023, Damon popped up in Oppenheimer as General Leslie Groves, the military man overseeing the entire Manhattan Project. It's a small role compared to some of his leads, but it's a reminder that at this stage of his career, Damon doesn't need to be the center of every frame anymore. He can show up, do excellent work in a supporting role, and quietly help anchor one of the most acclaimed films of the decade. And now, with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, Damon steps into the lead again, this time as Odysseus himself, trying to find his way home after decades of war. Which, in a strange way, feels like the perfect role for a guy who spent 30 years in Hollywood and somehow never lost the plot of who he actually is. Now, here's the part of Matt Damon's story that doesn't get talked about as much, because it isn't a triumphant montage. In 2017, during the height of the Me Too movement, Damon made public comments about the subject that came across as tone-deaf and dismissive, and the backlash was immediate and fair. For a guy whose entire public image was built on being the trustworthy one, this was the first real crack in that reputation. And to his credit, Damon didn't dig in or get defensive about it. He stepped back, acknowledged he hadn't listened enough, and admitted publicly that he needed to do better. It wasn't a perfect redemption arc, because those don't really exist in real life. But it was an honest one, and sometimes that's the harder thing to watch than a scandal. Not a fall from grace, just a guy quietly learning he was wrong. If you want to see the most underrated corner of his filmography, go watch The Informant from 2009. It's a Steven Soderbergh film where Damon plays a corporate whistleblower who narrates the entire movie through an increasingly unreliable internal monologue. One where you realize about halfway through that the guy telling you the story might not even know what's true anymore. It barely gets mentioned when people list Damon's best work, but it might be the most honest thing he's ever done on screen, because it's a performance built entirely around a man losing track of his own story while smiling the whole time. And maybe that's the whole thing about Matt Damon when you zoom all the way out. He built his own door with a screenplay when nobody was going to hand him one. He got cast as soldiers and spies and con men and astronauts, and every single time audiences leaned in and believed him. Not because he was the loudest or the flashiest, but because there was always something steady underneath the performance. And when that reputation actually got tested in real life, he didn't perform his way out of it. He just told the truth and sat with the discomfort, which honestly might be the most trustworthy thing he's ever done. Matt Damon spent 30 years playing men who lie beautifully, and somehow became the one actor in Hollywood nobody thinks is lying to them. If you want to see where this all really started, go watch Good Will Hunting. Not because it's the most famous thing on this list, but because it's the only one where you can actually watch two kids from Cambridge convince the entire industry to take a chance on them.